Hello everyone, welcome to another Animation Friday, and today I thought it would be interesting to briefly discuss my favorite Pixar films. Now these are the ones that I enjoy the most. Like, I can understand if there's some people who say, no, this one's more critically acclaimed, this one's better, blah 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 blah. I'm just speaking through my personal enjoyment of these films, uh, and uh, and why I gravitate to them more. And I'll also probably discuss the ones that are my least favorite too within another video. But yeah, let us get started without further ado. Let me address the first film I wanted to talk about, and that is Ratatouille. Um, Now, what I like about Ratatouille is it has a interesting approach to the whole kind of concept of cooking, and you know, and the aspect of the dream, um, and being passionate about something. And you sort of see this throughout the film with the main character, which is the rat, who ultimately wants to become a chef. But obviously, as you can probably see by logic, people in particular don't think that a rat should be cook. And that I think is something that I in particular enjoy about it. Now, see, the thing about Ratatouille is that even though there's a lot of little flaws here and there throughout the film, like the villain is probably not as a compelling villain. But usually Pixar films don't really have, I think, that interesting of villains, to be honest. I think their villains usually turn out fairly weak. I don't think they're as strong as Disney villains. So as far as that's concerned, I don't really feel like it's something that's really worth picking at because that's not really what Pixar focuses on strongly. Um, and yeah, the side characters, they maybe don't have as much dimensions to them as maybe some other animated films would. But I think there's just a lot of other things that are within this film that I enjoy so much that I overlook the kinds of things that you that some people would consider, just kind of more on the generic side. Um, One thing being, I like the whole idea of a rat wanting to be a cook, having this kind of dream. Um, I like the sort of relationship that the rat develops with uh, with the human characters. Um, and also, what I think is also very enjoyable about this particular uh, film is the critic. Like, even though, and I like too how they have a sense of build up with him too, because he's not really shown until pretty much the ending of the film. But I do like that kind of tension and build up, and I really enjoy the whole story that he has with and where the food kind of takes him back. Um, the just those scenes of where the critic is in it and he looks like this very uh, very stiff uppity guy, and then this food manages to kind of break that wall down, and um, and at the same time still being a critic, he still provides some, like, I think, very interesting commentary as far as criticism is concerned, as far as the way we look at certain things, and in particular in his cases with food, um, and I think that's just something that's it's touching in a way, um, and enjoyable to really watch. Um, Are there parts that maybe I don't enjoy as much as others? Yeah. But I think overall, I find myself liking this film uh, more so than some other Pixar films. Because even though it has its certain generic aspects to it, I still think that the ultimate message of the film, the ultimate execution of the film is very strong in the way that it approaches uh, the concept of the dream, as well as, the criticism that comes along with dreams. And I think that really works. And I don't think I've really seen an anime film, even films in general, that really kind of discuss this aspect. Um, and I like that it tries to kind of be nostalgic, especially with when the critic, eats the food and he's like, I'm going back to my childhood. It's just there's just such a touching part to it. It just it just feels so wholesome, and it feels so down to earth, and it kind of just makes you feel, thankful and happy. And I think that's what um, Remy, or excuse me, the rat, I believe this rat's name's Remy. Uh, I apologize. I'm really bad with these names. Um, but the rat actually, he he sort of brings out the dream so that others can kind of experience it. It's almost very, Disney. I think this Pixar film in particular is probably the most Disney Pixar ever got. Because if you look at Pixar's films, they're usually not a whole lot like Disney films. They don't revolve around the same things. They're not really. Um, they have a lot of different concepts that they throw at children. But this one I think was the most Disney that it got, and I think it was trying to kind of resemble sort of, Walt's dream, which was to bring childhood and happiness to people. And that's sort of what Remy did to even someone who so is so uppity like the critic, and I think that says something that's, I think, really different than what we see from a lot of other animated films. So for that reason, I really enjoy it. I enjoy it for its concepts and ideas, as well as its characters, even though some of them, again, are not as impressive as others. This one still manages to win me over through just the fact that it's focusing on something new and interesting. Uh, and I really enjoyed it. I really, really, really liked it overall, and consider it to be one of my favorites. Now, the second films that I wanted to discuss, one being a series of films, being the Toy Story series, and again, I already did a separate video where I talked about Toy Story and why I consider those films in particular to be classics. The reason why I think this is the reason why I think this, or why I feel this to be one of my favorites, is because it really does bring out the childhood in you. It really brings out the concept of childhood fairly well, especially the idea of growing up and things changing, you know, and sort of time passing along. And I think it deserves the recognition that it has received over the years. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But at the same time, the characters, the stories, the concepts, it's all, I think, really great, and it's enjoyable. And again, it brings out the nostalgia. It's like Ratatouille too. They bring out that nostalgia factor. And again, although this film is largely different than, again, a lot of other Disney films, it still brings up interesting ideas of, of what it means uh, when sort of things are changing, and each film brings up, new concepts and again new characters too. So it's a it's what it does what a good trilogy should do. And really brings its all. And I really can't say all that much about it since I've already, kind of mentioned it more in depth in one of my previous videos, but it's really enjoyable. It's just fun to watch. Um, and I would definitely recommend all three films as my favorites. Third film that I want to discuss is The Incredibles. This film's a lot of fun. I think this film really encapsulates the typical, what we would consider American family, um, and kind of describes a little bit of my family too, except we don't have a crazy baby and we don't have superpowers or anything. Um, but they really do bring up ideas that are, identifiable, and uh, things that certain families would be going through, and you really identify with each of the characters, and in particular the protagonists. And again, the villain, he is over the top and goofy, and yeah, did I mention too that like in my previous video, where I talked about Die Another Day, the villain dies in the same way as the Incredibles villain dies, and I was wondering if they literally did pull it from Die Another Day. I'm still wondering, if some writer, for this movie was just, sitting and watching Die Another Day, and he's like, yeah, you know what, we should have him die like that. Only we don't show it, we just show the cape. And it brings up the funny joke too of, how one of the side characters, Edna, says why superheroes shouldn't have capes. Um, but again, uh, the whole idea of having a superhero family, the whole uh, idea of, having them sort of go into hiding, um, the, the side characters, the whole kind of crazy plot that ensues is very entertaining. It's fun to watch. It's fun for kids, and it can be fun for adults too. Um, there's just a lot that this film, I think, offers as far as a children's sort of superhero film. And I don't think there has been a film out there that has captured itself so successfully, that's out of the sort of Marvel and DC universe, and create its own universe, which I think is cool, and usually something we don't see. Usually when films are made, they're usually about Spider-Man or Batman or Superman or um, the Avengers, all comic book based and not out of someone's own creative mind, or um, or understanding of the characters. It's a lot of it is borrowed, and it's nice to see that this film strays away from that, and creates its own idea of what a superhero is. And oftentimes we don't associate superheroes with family. And I like the fact that it's trying to combine these things, because it works really well for children. And when it's marketed towards children, you've sold uh, pretty much all the boy demographic, especially when you look at how everybody loves superheroes, in particular boys, who like Avengers and things like that. And they will gravitate, I think, towards this film. And as far as from a storytelling standpoint, yeah, are there parts that are goofy? Yeah, are there parts where you're like, what in the world? What's the point? Um, yes, but at the same time, overall, it's fun and entertaining and interesting and engaging to watch, and identifiable. And I think that's why this film really works for me as a viewer, because it gives me all of the things that I would think of if they were to make a scenario that revolved around a superhero family. Um, should we spend maybe more time with the kids and the mom? Yeah, but they still get their time, and you still kind of, even though it's really the father's story, you see how ultimately all the other characters are affected by his choices and everything. So I think for its setup, it works. And I think, is something that I think a lot of families, sort of go through. And again, I think there is a lot of pressure from the father within a family, especially when it comes to providing um, to the family. Uh, so that's, again, something that I think is really important to consider, and is something that I think makes this film one of my favorites. Monsters Inc., second to last one. Now, again, some people might be saying, well, this one's not the strongest. Some people usually they'll pick Up or Wall-E. But for me personally, I like Monsters Inc. for a variety of reasons. Now, again, the concept of, monsters under the bed is not, again, it wasn't something new, but the way they take this idea that already exists and sort of create its own universe surrounding it, I find to be really interesting and actually really cool. Um, like that they use the screams of children to, provide energy, all of that. It's just, it's goofy, but in a child's film, it sort of makes sense. Um, and I think that's how a lot of children would perceive, this this concept, like that there is this other world where monsters exist and where they're able to go through kids' doors and scare them. Um, and what I do enjoy is there's a lot of comedic moments that I think are fun. Boo as a character is very cute, although some people might say, well, there's not much to her. Well, yeah, because she is fairly young and she can't really talk. Uh, but her relationship with Sully is very strong, and I find the ideas that they bring up within this film, in regards to, the kinds of barriers that exist, between those two worlds of like humans and monsters, is something interesting, and it has this way, I think, of, really kind of touching you in a way, like or tugging at your heartstrings, so to speak. Especially considering the fact that, the bond between Boo and Sully is very strong throughout. And it has its sad moments, it has its uplifting moments. And at the same time, it has simple ideas, but I think in which it executes those ideas really do work for the film. It's just, I just think it's very entertaining to watch overall. I find it fun and engaging and funny at the same time, and I enjoy Mike Wazowski. I enjoy Sully. I enjoy this kind of goofy world they created from it, and it's it's just interesting to watch. It's just more entertaining for me. Um, than some of the other Pixar films, where I think they do try to put in too much of the touchy feely. Whereas here, there's a lot of goofiness, but then there's also a lot of um, genuinely heartwarming moments. So I think that's why I find this film to be uh, this film works for me in particular. Last one, Finding Nemo. Uh, I don't particularly care for Ellen DeGeneres' character throughout this film. Let me just say that right out of the gateway. I know some people might be saying, "How can you not?" Well, I think she's just a little bit too annoying, and I don't find her as funny. But regardless, this is still one of my favorites because I really do love this story. It is a good story with a good message, with good characters, and you know, there's just a certain amount of magical magicness, or just there's just a certain amount of awe surrounding this film too, with its visuals, like the sea, and um, and there's just a lot of care given to the story and the animation that I think one can't help but enjoy. I mean, it's fun. Uh, I do prefer the sea turtle actually over Dory, but at the same time, overall it's fun to watch. There's a lot of cuteness to it. Um, there's a lot of genuine heart to it as well. And I think for what it's worth, it works. Apparently, they're making one surrounding Dory, which I don't know how well that is going to work and what exactly they're going to do with that, but we'll see. Maybe there's some other characters that they'll bring to the table. Uh, but as far as this film, Finding Nemo, is concerned, there's just a lot to like about it, I think. And I think a lot that people can enjoy from this film. Uh, in particular, the relationship between Nemo and his father, and uh, the sort of adventure that his father has to go on in order to, sort of rescue his son, um, and sort of the struggles that are along that journey. And, you sort of see how Nemo, too, um, has to sort of learn things as well, and he kind of, goes through a sort of a growing stage uh, when he's captured um, by divers, and that's hence where his father goes on the journey to save him. But if you just, it's just one of those sad but yet uplifting films, and for that reason, I just think that it's fun to watch, and it's engaging and it's interesting. And even though I don't particularly care for Dory's character all too much, and I find her a little bit too, she just tries to. I think Ellen DeGeneres tries a little too hard for me. Um, Overall, I find what it has that's in it that's really good to be really good. And I overlook those other things. Now, the reason why certain films like Wall-E, I haven't actually seen the full film of Wall-E, um, although I do really love its concept, of technology, just taking over us, and completely kind of destroying, planet Earth and all that stuff. Although I like those ideas, I still feel like that those are kind of just put in the background, and they're not really the ultimate main focus. It's more about environmentalism. Whereas I feel like had they focused more on, um, the humans not being able to, get away from, you know, or being so attached to technology as a theme, I think that would have been more interesting than just inserting environmental messages throughout. Because it's something that we've seen here and there, and it's been done before. Um, and all the love between the two robots is touching. I mean, it's it doesn't really it's it's not as compelling to me. Um, I don't know if it's because they're just robots. It might just be that, but you know, uh, I think it's cute, but I don't think it has a whole lot of uh, substance, especially when, you know, they can't really talk, um, you know, and you know, they're just kind of there for the sake of, you know, helping the humans, even though they're really the main character. You know, and I think they could have kept the main character as Wally, but at the same time, you know, there's just kind of like there's this sort of part where I think some people just like they either like the concept of, you know, humans more, or they like the concept of robots more. And for me personally, I find the whole concept of, you know, humans being incapable of, you know, really connecting um, with nature, uh, and being so in tune with technology, could have brought up a lot more interesting concepts than just, yeah, we should just treat our earth well, and we shouldn't dump our garbage and, you know, all that, which is, you know, something that I've heard time and time again. So I think that's just something that, you know, made me not really want to put this particular film as my favorite. Uh, and again, I haven't seen the whole thing, so it didn't really, I guess, engage me as much as some of the other Pixar films. Um, Now, as to why I didn't put the other big one up there is because I find the villains just unbelievably goofy, and, you know, I don't think there really needed to be villains in this movie. You know, the whole concept of, you know, Carl going on the journey that he and his wife always wanted to go on, I find that to be very touching, and I think that really works. Um, but having this whole villain plot and, you know, I just think that, you know, they should have just gone through harsh terrain throughout the a whole entire journey, and, you know, maybe have times where they're, you know, they're on the edge, and, you know, they feel like that they won't be able to make it, um that Carl won't be able to make it. uh you know, I think that could have worked a lot more, and I think that he would have connected with the kid a lot better for a plot that set itself up that way, instead of inserting these dogs and this. I don't know. I just didn't like that. I just thought it was kind of dumb. I didn't think it was uh that interesting. Whereas I think definitely him connecting more with the kid and just having them go on this journey to where he and his belated wife wanted to actually go on is a lot more interesting than having these dogs that talk and fly planes, and then having this villain who really doesn't serve a purpose, really. I mean, it's just pointless. So yeah, that's why I didn't include that one on my list. It's just because the whole focus of the plots I just found to be misguided. Um, but yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I could say when it comes to my favorites for Pixar. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say. However, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I'd love to hear what everybody else's favorites are. But yeah, I think that's really ultimately all I can say for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care.